Today's guest is Andy Wigzell. Andy is a financial planner and top performer with Barnum Financial Group. He has built a wealth management team of skilled professionals who anticipate challenges for their clients and help create an overall consistent financial strategy. I asked Andy to be on the show so he could discuss his journey from a young financial professional to one of Barnum's top performers. We'll touch upon his work with various programs and uncover his personal insights about our industry. I'm Paul Blanco, and this is Small Steps, Big Wins. All right, Andy, welcome to the show today. Thank you so much for being on. And I really appreciate you making the long trip from Trumbull today down to beautiful Shelton. So thank you for being here.
Thank you, Paul. It's great to be here.
Yeah. And I'm really excited about, when we were building this show and we think of small steps, big wins, you're one of the people that came to mind about some of the things you've done through your career. So let's dig in a little bit here. So the first thing is, how did you end up in this career and how long you been in it now?
So I started in 2000 and was a job changer. So I was just 30 years old when I came in and had a successful career in something else that I was very passionate about, but I knew that I wasn't going to be able to get to where I wanted to be, both intellectually, financially, be able to support my family the way I wanted to. And I took an offering with a first company that offered great training, but that's all they really offered. And so right in 2001, I came to Barnum and came as part of a group of people that came from that company.
Yep.
And
that was a good day for Barnum.
Oh, great day. And I think bucking so many trends, all of us remained.
Yep.
There was no attrition. We all did different age groups. So one guy retired successfully. And the young woman I came in with, we're still here over 20 years later.
Yeah, which is amazing. So, coming in as a career changer was very interesting in our career. But what was some of the obstacles you faced originally? Like, you started out a year and now you're here. And what were some of the obstacles you faced?
I think it was everything from a mindset to the financial hardships that come from starting something new, to appreciating that you really were a business owner and you weren't an employee anymore. So my previous job, I had been a paramedic. It was a passion of mine since I was a teenager. And I really felt like I was doing good for people at that time. However, when I transitioned, I really felt the same way. I used to tell people, in my old career, I came to your house in lights and sirens. And in my new career, I come lights and wipers. And it gave me the same thrill to have an experience with people, talk to them, and not just have it be at the most difficult times of their life. It was actually, there was still pain. They still, maybe didn't understand what they were doing or they needed help in some direction. But at the end of the day, what I was good at was having a treatment plan and formulating that plan and executing that and reassuring people. And I really felt like that was a natural transition for me from sitting on a street corner in an ambulance to sitting in an office. But the office itself was the change, right? Different hours, different hardships, both positive and negative retrospectively. But it was transitioning and being a 30-something, early 30s, who had some level of success and recognizing I might have to take a step back for a period of time in order to really attain some of the goals I really wanted to.
Yeah. And I think there's a big point, everyone that's listening today, that Andy made early on. As a career changer, if you think about it, he talked about the noble profession that we have and compared it to being a paramed, right? But the other thing he said, he didn't become a financial advisor. He became a business owner. Yeah. And I think that's a different mentality that, we use the word entrepreneur now is if you come in, I feel like many advisors hit a ceiling of complexity and they hit it because they're great advisors, but they just haven't made the shift to that business owner and then to that entrepreneur. So I think that's a really important point. So if you're sitting out there listening, you have to put your business owner hat / entrepreneur on as it's one of the first notes you should take if you're listening today.
And I think one of the stumbling blocks for me was I never really thought of myself as a business owner. I had been a cog in a larger EMS system and had been successful and had the great shifts and been a supervisor and what have you. But at the end of the day, it wasn't something that I owned. So I did take a period of time to transition from what I'll say was an employee mentality, a positive employee. That wasn't a negative, but then to really being an owner of a business as well.
Yeah. And listen, being a business owner is not for everyone. And
it's hard.
Yeah.
It's a lot harder than people say. America's dreams are I tell my boss to stick it and go start a pie shop. And the answer is it doesn't always work that way.
Correct. So, as you're going on this journey now, you're in the business, you're moving along, you're in almost 2 years. And, I talk about how sometimes it takes a year, 2, 3 for it to click, right? When you know that this is your business. But I know you went through something different than that. And I always tell people in my first year as an advisor, always on Thursday nights, I quit 3 times, right? And it was always, the week's coming to an end and all that. But you had a pretty big turning point in your career that I think was a springboard to where you are today, one of the springboards. So
no doubt about it.
Why don't you share with us about that?
Well, you were a big part of that. And so the sort of abridged version of it is I go to your office and I speak to your executive assistant. And my experience in that first 18 months was that I'm very algorithmic. I just follow that process. A equals B equals C. And that's part of what medicine can be about. So I had caught the eye of some people who said, we'd like you to come work for us. But it wasn't in a sales role. It was really more in an operations role. And one of the things that they offered was really more stability financially early on. Not certainly as much upside it comes with owning a business and being a sales professional. And at that time I said, okay, I think I'm going to do that. So I come to your office and I speak to your executive assistant. And I think she sort of knew what was going on. I said, I'd like to talk to him maybe later on today. It was a Thursday. And she said, oh, okay. And you happen to be on the phone. And you said, all right, have him come to my office at 5:00. So I thought, oh, that's great. Let's just finish out the day and then we'll finish out the career. So I come back and there she is in the office, diligently working away. And she says, please do have a seat. And so it was like, a few minutes, and I assumed the door was closed. I assumed that you were running behind as you always seem to have so many things going on. And it got to be like 5:15 and I said, hey, she said, oh yeah. And then it got to be like 5:35 and I thought, man, this guy's busy. And I said, is he here? She said, oh no, he's at the gym. He'll be here at 6.
How to get the workout in.
And I was like, oh, well, there you have it. And it wasn't until many, many years later that I really appreciated what that hour meant. It was the opportunity to sit and stew in my own juices and really decide if this is something I wanted to do. So 6:00, the door flings open. You say, oh, you're still here. Come on in. So I remember sitting in the chair and it was a, larger wing chair. And I'm trying to explain it. And I got the sense that you kind of already knew. And you said some prophetic words to me. I'll sort of distill them into a single sentence, which was, I see more in you than you do right now. And I think that if you take this other job, which was a solid job, an operations job, then I think you'll be doing a disservice to what your potential could be. So as seems to be the way here, you said, I'll make you a deal. And the deal is, give me 30 days to figure this out. And if at the end of 30 days, you've given it a try, a solid try, and you come back to me and say, I just don't have it in me, I just don't want it, then I'll make sure that job is still available. I appreciate that there's some politicking involved and And that's something you've always been very good at, and making sure that every stakeholder understands their situation. And I said, I mean, what are you going to say? Right? You've got the CEO of a company saying, give yourself a chance for 30 days. And if it doesn't work out, we'll soft land you. So I said, sure. So I come out of there, and I remember, I probably had like 6 phone calls from my parents. Did you do it? How's it going? And I said, well, didn't go the way I thought it was. Oh God, it didn't go the way you're supposed to. And I said, but I believe in him. And he said, well, my dad, who is a great guy, but never a sales guy, was an operations guy. My mom worked in a bank, very much a process-driven family. They said, well, what did he say he was going to do? I said, I have no idea.
Neither did I.
And he said, my dad said, well, what's the next step? I said, I have not a clue. He said, what are you going to do tomorrow? I said, I'm going to show up and see what happens. And I show up, and over the course of about a week, I got an invitation to join what was then the corporate education team, which was a brand new team that had been stood up, now called Plan Smart. And they were looking for people who were neither quiet nor shy and had a good background to be able to deliver, I would think, complex content in a way that people could understand. So you said to me, I'd like you to go to this, and I'd like you to tell me how that works. So I went to it, and I sat sort of off to the side, and there were 2 other people. And from that very moment, I loved it. That venue, I sat 3rd chair. I was in the audience answering questions at the break and things like that. And then on the 3rd week, so this is my 3rd weekend of my 30 days, the primary speaker got sick. And he said, I'm just trapped.
I remember I was in Newport.
Yeah.
And he had laryngitis.
He said, I just can't do it.
Yep.
I just can't do it. And so I thought, oh, what can we do to help you? He said, well, go talk to the other guy and see if he's ready. And the other guy said, I'm just not ready. I'm more the inside guy. I love being the inside guy, but I'm not sure I can project that way. And so you said to me, well, I guess, Meatball, looks like you're up.
Yep.
And one of the things that had been sort of talked to me, there was a throwaway comment in that first week, was make sure you read all the notes. Make sure you follow the notes, make sure you listen like an audience member, but also listen like an advisor, and take an hour or take 2 hours before that class and read them as if you're going to have to be the understudy. I don't know it was that specific, but that's sort of the thought that came through. And sure enough, 3rd weekend, the call to the bullpen, and you're the guy. And I stood up there and I delivered that presentation that I had really done end to end on earlier that day. And the audience didn't clap or anything. But at the end, they all asked the same questions they had asked before. And then everyone sort of hung around and then shuffled out. And I thought, I'm as good as everyone else now. And that following week, you said to me, I need 5 minutes with you. And I thought, oh God, here we go. But I knew I was staying, and I thought I was going to tell you I was staying. And what you said was, through the skilled success of the sales and support teams at what was corporate education, we had a second venue. And that you invited me to be part of that venue as the primary person, based only really on my experiences in the previous 3 weeks.
Well, and just for everyone, Plan Smart / corporate ed is, when he says venue, he was teaching people at a corporation. Most of them are Fortune 1000, where Andy's teaching, and he's teaching a program that was at that time 4 parts, and it was really about financial planning. And then people came and met with you. So you do that, you start moving on your career. All of a sudden, you start meeting with clients on a favorable basis and doing all this great stuff. So what's next? What was next? What else happened? Go through the journey then from there a little, just very quickly.
So once I did that corporate education, I knew that was what I wanted to do. One of the unique parts of this whole business is you can find your passion in everything from auto and home insurance to financial planning to investments to insurance to long-term care. And what I loved was the presenting of the holistic financial plan, awesome. Which at the right time, fortuitous is that, or serendipitous is that planning was really coming into its own. And from there, I took off. Ended up working in that venue for 12 years. That parlayed into the opportunity to do other venues, have diverse teammates. Some I liked and some I didn't. But at the end of the day, we were all a team, and we were at that time presenting a unified approach in who we were and how we could help people.
Yeah, which is super exciting. So, as you did that, you talked about the business owner part, and then, it's interesting, your family being operational in their careers, right? Well, you've, I think, hired staff pretty quickly and then really dug in on the operational stuff. Sometimes I'd give you a hard time about that because I didn't want you to spend too much time. But as you fast forward, I think those two things, taking a leap as a business owner and then being operationally strong and efficient. Tell me a little more about that.
So I don't know if you've talked about it in other episodes, but I'm a big fan of the Colby.
Yep.
I think you are who you are.
I haven't. We haven't spoken about it.
I think you are who you are. And I think going through that process, which we did here rather extensively, really taught me who I was and how I operate. And so when you would say, hey, listen, I need you to take a leap of faith on this employee, I didn't question that because it's not in my nature to have to. We've built that level of trust with an appreciation that I'll have to backfill and figure something out. But there were enough processes in place that someone could come in and really figure out where the bathroom was and be able to do something that helped us really the first day because it was charted and written out, even though it wasn't perhaps as defined as other people would have liked. But at the end of the day, I thought it's been a great experience. Hiring people and bringing them on when you see opportunity and you see talent has been a big thing. I think that I'm very loyal. And as a result, I have seen people maybe take advantage. I don't get off the risk perhaps as much as I would like or as quickly as I would like. I definitely give people the benefit of the doubt. But at the end of the day, I sleep very well at night knowing the people who I work with and I work for and work for me I feel like we're all a good team and we have the right people in the right seats.
Well, and remember, as you're hiring people and growing not only staff and advisors, one of the things you have to do as a leader, because now you're switching your career from a solo practitioner to a leader. You always have to look in the mirror and say, did I give everything I possibly could to this person to help them to be successful? Number one. Number two is, I think probably if we fast forward to today, almost 25 years later, you learn to fail faster. And
very definitely.
When you make a mistake, and that's part of being an entrepreneur, you just get off the risk quicker, which it takes time to understand that. And as you're sitting here listening, you'll hang on to things longer and longer as a new advisor or a new business owner. And then as you get more experienced, you can't put a price tag on that. My dad had a saying. He would say to me, if I knew what I knew today, I'd do things differently. And I said, I think everyone would say that, Dad. And he says, yeah, I know, but that's experience. And I said, all right, you have more experience than I do, so you could have more insight. And I think that happens in our business too. So really, really great points, Andy. So let's fast forward now. So now you're in the top probably 0.5% of the whole industry in terms of the business that you've built. And probably you always had a team, but you've really added and really taken teaming to another level now, probably in the last 4 years. So why don't you talk about present now? Where are you? What's the team look like? What's the goals, the vision, some of the things that you're doing there?
For sure. The team today is 13 people. We're a baker's dozen. We are spread out across several states.
That's great.
We're licensed in all states for all products. My thought process is that while the regulatory environment is always changing, the costs associated with that regulatory environment never seem to go down. My thought process is that if you're licensed in every state for all products, the opportunities are there and you're never going to miss one.
Yeah.
I appreciate that you have to look at your P&L and look at your ROI, but I'm in a position where I'm willing to take some of those chances so that we don't miss opportunities. Because the thing that still keeps me going, even though as I begin my transition away from being kind of at the coalface advisor, is the people. I love talking to clients. I love still presenting. What's happening is that now I sort of have one foot on the client side, making sure that my people who want to retire can stay retired. But my other client base now are the people that work with me.
Yeah,
both the operational and administrative staff. How do we give them tracks to run on and trajectories to meaningful careers? So what's career development look like? More than just compensation, but compensation obviously a part of it. And then the advisors themselves. One thing that has been so unique about Barnum is that the number of opportunities, the number of at-bats has been so great, both on the prospective client side, but also on the prospective partner side, that you really do get an opportunity to take the best of people. And in some cases, they say, this is just not for me. I want to move to something different, and it's not really the negative that it can be. I think people tend to be nostalgic, and the reason why we hold on to things and sometimes call it loyalty is because we love what we know. But you talk about failing faster. I'm all for meeting new people. I'm all for taking some chances. And at the end of the day, they're measured chances. So you can try on business partners like you try on hats. Some will fit and some will not.
Yeah, and now you're taking all three skills, right? You start out as a business owner, then you start to lead, and now you're truly an entrepreneur with 13 people, multiple states. Your practice is very different. So let's talk about that. So multiple states.
Yep.
Great opportunities, lots of at-bats. So much bad came with the pandemic, but a lot of good came. And when we look at our business now, you are able to use technology now to benefit you on the operational side, but also on the front end to meet more clients. And I think that there's a number here. We at Barnum have clients in 79% of the zip codes in the US. So tell me a little bit how that's helping you and what you're doing.
The days are if somebody were to look at my calendar, they might say it's frantic. I sort of relish it. So my days, we have offices as part of the Barnum network. We have offices. Obviously, we're here in Shelton, Connecticut, kind of the HQ. We have folks on the team in New York City, in Charlotte, North Carolina, in Jupiter, Florida, Denver, Colorado. So as a result, I've been able to take some of the experiences I've had in my prior life, shift work, and we've been able to have a situation where we've got some people. We have one guy who loves to do 7 a.m. calls. Not many people want to do a 7 a.m. call, but now we can service that. We have people who want to do a 9 p.m. call. We have guys who would be happy to do that. Very difficult to do a call with a client in Hawaii when you're sitting in Connecticut, but not so difficult to do a call in Hawaii if you're sitting in Denver and you're only a couple hours behind.
If you ever put a 4:30 a.m. shift, go to the bullpen.
Totally.
I'm your guy.
Totally.
That's my only free time right now.
I'm sure that the call would be huffing and puffing on the treadmill.
Yes.
But
I'd be effective.
I don't doubt it. So we love it. I can come and do this podcast today, and then I can go back to my desk and at 12 noon Eastern deliver a 1-hour corporate education Plan Smart presentation to 80 people in Texas. So it's an hour behind.
I was going to ask you where. So it's in Texas.
In Texas.
That's awesome.
And Texas and Oklahoma. Then from there, I know that after the 15 minutes I get to kind of cool off and cool down, I know I have a 1:30 appointment with a client that I've had for over 20 years.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's fantastic.
You're just switching gears on so many different ways on a daily basis. So a couple of quick ones. I know that in the firm, we have our own infrastructure in terms of wholesalers. And, I think you've done a really good job working with your internal partners to make sure you stay top of mind in everything that you need, but not needing to know everything because you could lean in on some of those people there. And as I always talk to you, you will always say to me, like, these people are a very huge part of an extension of my team. Why don't you give us a little more on that?
I think that the internal partners that we have and in the wholesaling department at Barnum are force multipliers. They allow me to remain focused on what I really love to do, which is talking to clients about their situation or talking with advisors about someone else's, another client's situation. But I think that in today's world, there's an emphasis on organizations trying to be all things to all people, sort of the financial supermarket.
Yep.
And my experience is that I don't know that people can really do that well on a larger scale. But what we've seemed to have been able to find success here on is that it's the sum of the parts, not the whole, right? It's like, I don't build them, I just fly them.
Yep.
And so somebody can come to me and say, I really need to understand this about estate planning. I'm not sure that would be something that would be an easy answer off the top of my head, but I know I can go to someone who has a lot of experience in estate planning, and I can have a conversation with her and say, help me, given your legal background and trust in estates, help me understand that. I can go on the flip side to both our annuity team and our investment squad and say, give me the 30 seconds on this. And you really help and educate me on what this means. And the benefit of those folks are not only do they come from a perspective, if you will, of wanting to educate, but they're also client facing. So I can sit in a conference room on the same side as a client, and then that subject matter expert can explain that product. And then I can turn to the client and say, what do you think?
Yeah, it's interesting. And as I'm sitting here listening to you, another important thing that the audience needs to realize is that as a leader / entrepreneur, you have to be comfortable not knowing everything. And you have to be comfortable using the resources. And we talk about, leaving your ego at the door. But when you can go to a client and say, I'm bringing in so-and-so, I think you have so much more credibility. And as you're listening, you should figure out who those people are in your network that are force multipliers and give you that extension.
For sure. It took me a long time to figure out that people, my job is really to be the air traffic controller.
Correct.
Right? Is to be knowledgeable and make sure nobody crashes,
yep.
but not to actually fly any of the planes. Yeah. But be that important relationship management cog and maybe be an armchair psychiatrist now and again for human behavior and human nature. But at the end of the day, I don't think, if I look across the clients I've had for 15 or 20 or more years, I don't think they really expect me to be the expert in really anything now. They want me to be the expert in making sure that they stay retired.
Yeah, which is amazing, and back to that noble profession that you opened up with. That's the thing. If you could protect their future and you can make them retire and have the lifestyle they want, they all win. So let's spend a little time, you talked about mentality. Like, here you are now, you got a lot of juice left in your thing. You've kept yourself fitness wise in shape. You have a great family, kids. And what's your mindset right now? Like, and you think about this 13-person team, like, how are you showing up each day in terms of what the next 5 and the 10 look like? And I'd like to understand that a little bit.
I definitely went through a series of sort of revised dreams. I think that it's really great to say, well, I want to make a certain amount of money, or I want to have that great car, or I want to have a house that I really want. But interestingly enough, as you get closer and closer and then attain those things, you're like, maybe what I need to revise this. And so now my focus really is I hear a lot of people talking about work-life balance, and my personal opinion is I never was very good at that, because that assumes that there's 50% on one side and 50% on the other. Yeah. And so my new term is work-life sway, similar to a palm tree. Some days you're going to be more business oriented, and some days you're going to be more family oriented. Yeah. And that family can be your business family and the people that we work with, and it can be your home family and the people we care so deeply about. And that's been my focus now, which is
great.
Yeah. How do you fill in the gaps and be present in that moment, appreciating that you're swaying one way or the other? And I think that all too often when we're home, we're thinking about work, and when we're work, we're worried about home. And now it's being more deliberate in my thoughts and my actions to be where my feet are planted.
Yeah. And that's something I taught you guys many years ago, and I've heard, and I listened to a podcast recently, and the person said, balance is in the eye of the beholder. And
Totally.
he says, I'm growing my business. I got to work 7 days a week, but I love it. I'd rather be doing this than doing anything else. And when I'm with my family, I'm going to be with my family, and I don't have to apologize for that. And I think too many people think, like you said, it's whatever, 50-50, 70-30, and they're trying to do something that's not really them.
Right.
And everyone balances in the eye of the beholder. So I really appreciate that. When you think of your vision, though, with the team, like you're in all these states, you're growing, you have probably more opportunities than you know what to do with. What is like where if we're come back on this podcast in 3 years, you're going to say to me, holy mackerel, Paul, here's what's happened. And what is that?
I think that the growth continues. If I look at the power curve of where we were, where I started,
Yep.
and how quickly, how exponentially, really, the growth has been personally and professionally, not just financially. My thought is that it continues. I've never been a quitter. I'm in now my early 50s, and I have a long track record in front of me. I have a long expectation. I'm on the Paul Blanco diet, so I'm going to live to 243 years old.
At least 100.
At least totally.
We'll take 104.
And so I wouldn't like to say the world is my oyster, but now all the choices I make are free will choices, and they are incredibly hard to make free will choices. But as a result of that, now every person that we add is going to be more thoughtful. Every office that we open is going to be more thoughtful. And it's in support of what has been a larger group. Ironically, here I sit almost 25 years later at Barnum, and still I'm part of a larger organization, right? So I don't wear a paramedic t-shirt anymore. I now wear a suit and tie, but I'm still part of a larger organization, although I've built my business within that Russian doll of Barnum. It's fantastic.
Let me just clarify for all of you listening. I know you can't see Andy, but he doesn't wear a suit and tie anymore. He grew up, his father was a banker, his mom was a banker, and she probably dressed up every day, and he used to dress up every
My
day.
pajamas had pinstripes.
I know.
And then COVID came, and
I think he has shorts on all his Zooms anyway. So, but really great. Well, listen, I mean, when you think of growing with teaching in corporations, now using transition solutions, which is basically when people are leaving their companies, getting an opportunity to be in front of them. Your team's doing that in all 50 states.
We are.
And you're getting teed up to work on the cases that matter. What's missing right now? What is, like, if you said there's one last thing I got to get for myself or for the team, what is it?
I think it's, for myself, it's maintaining my health.
Great.
For me, being where I am and being the owner of this business, at the end of the day, I'm still the person who kind of makes the magic happen. Without me, it's not going to be, the business will survive, but it won't be as successful as I want it to be.
Won't thrive.
For sure. And then in the business itself, it's carving out more focused time for the guys on the line, those new sales professionals, to make sure that they get the education that I would want them to have. I was fortunate. I came into this business after having, a decent education from another organization on the product, but I didn't have the education on how to be myself. And I think now that's so much more important, particularly here, given the depth and breadth of the people who can support you. You don't have to be an expert in every product. In fact, it's better if you're not.
Correct.
Because you can be more yourself. And I think really making sure that I myself continue that journey, and then the younger guys who don't really think about it in the way that they should begin that journey of self-inspection to make sure that they are who they want to be.
Yeah. And so to summarize this, I mean, you said it earlier, but let me recap it. You said, and I'm using different language, but you said basically now you have two clients.
Oh, yeah.
And one is your clients and the other one is your teammates. And, super proud of where you've been to where you've come. I always say that we're all just beginning. I'm looking forward to the rest of the journey with you. And, when I think of small steps, big wins, and you exemplify that. So thank you for being on the show today. We really appreciate it. And I know you'll be good for your next meeting too.
Paul, you're the greatest. Thanks so much.
You got it. Everybody have a great afternoon. Thank you for listening to Small Steps, Big Wins. Please rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Every bit helps. You can also follow us on Instagram at Small Steps, Big Wins.
All opinions expressed by the program participants are solely their current opinions and do not reflect the opinions their respective parent companies or affiliates or the companies with which the program participants are affiliated. Investments or strategies mentioned in this program may not be suitable for you, and you should make your own independent decision regarding them. This material does not take into account your particular investment objectives, financial situation, or needs, and is not intended as recommendations appropriate for you. You should strongly consider seeking advice from your own investment advisor. Securities and investment advisory services offered through qualified registered representatives of MML Investor Services, LLC. Member SIPC, 6 Corporate Drive, Shelton, Connecticut, 06484, telephone number 203-513-6000.